Good evening, everybody. So I'm meant to be discussing coronavirus pandemic happening globally. It's not new gist. We all know about it. Affecting the whole globe right now. Nigeria not spared at all. Caused by a virus known as coronavirus or COVID-19. Coronavirus disease 19, that's the name of the disease, known as well as SARS-CoV-2, which is actually a different type of coronavirus causing some respiratory disease infection. So basically, what we know, it's a disease that affects the respiratory tract, the respiratory system, and of course, basically, you could pass from one person to the other. A whole lot of theories basically have come around it. Some people think it's a biological stuff. Some people, of course, there's also the theory about it being something to do with technology. Well, whichever way and whichever theory we all believe, the truth is that it's here to stay. It's got a whole coronavirus actually affecting quite a large number of people. But the good part about it is that, of course, that's technology. Well, whichever way and whichever theory we all believe, the truth is that it's here to stay. It's got a whole coronavirus actually affecting quite a large number of people. But the good part about it is that, of course, the mortality isn't as bad as what everybody's comes to know. But of course, you don't want to have a mortality. So basically, what everybody talks about is prevention. I'm not going to bore you about the kind of virus it is, but for simple knowledge for everybody, we know it's an RNA virus, and so basically what it does is reproduces itself once it gets into the host. And basically, the part of the host it wants to go is it goes into where you have mucous membranes, and of course, so you have it around the throat, you have it around the respiratory tract, and of course, even around your eyelids, basically. But wherever there's mucous membrane, it finds it attaches itself and reproduces itself, uses the host to reproduce itself. The respiratory tract, basically we know that's where lung is, that's where we breathe from, and if it truly manifests, one of the cardinal things it does is like affects your respiration, your ability to breathe, and of course you know when you don't breathe, you're as good as gone. Now, basic stuff is that not everybody who picks up the virus actually ends up that way. Some people basically have no symptoms, some have mild, moderate, or severe symptoms. Your manifestation is basically a function of the immune system. Like for me, presently right now, no one is talking about treatment. We're still looking at vaccines and all the things people have been talking about. But what's important now is we're talking about prevention, and that's the key things basically you want to do, because they contact spread kind of thing. Everybody's talked about the whole idea about you being at home, self-isolating, social distancing. That's what the whole government and everybody globally is pushing. And when you have to come in contact with people, we talked about, you having, of course, there's this theory about the masks today. Nobody actually knows exactly what it is, but the clear understanding is that today, at this moment, is like a mask to protect you. So whatever kind of mask you want to use, they have some level of protection. But of course, there is an ideal mask that you want to wear. Of course, that's not readily available. But so the general thing, let's just be aware with that, no matter the mask you use, you get some level of protection. Because the concept about also trying to bring your hands to your face, so we're encouraged to wash our hands regularly, as much as possible. At every opportunity we have, we'll wash our hands. And of course, where we can wash, we could actually also use sanitizers, alcohol-based sanitizers, as much as 60%. Of course, you do not want to use a large alcohol-based stuff because it affects, because alcohol is combusted, so you don't want to have all this basic effect. So social distancing, wearing a mask, washing up your hands as much as possible, and use of sanitizers is basically what everybody's pushing. How do I know mild, moderate, or severe symptom? Your manifestation is basically a function of the immune system. Like for me, like every virus, if your immunity is high, you can actually be able to fight the virus and the disease is going to cause. If your immunity is poor, then of course the chances that your immune system is going to be overwhelmed is high, and that will lead to a full manifestation. So the immunity actually determines the severity of the disease for you. And it could range from mild stuff, where basically you just have a headache, and just a slight rise in your body temperature. For some people, and after a couple of days, you'll overcome it. But for some people, it could go, like I said, to the full-blown pain, causing a cough. And of course, once the cough it makes, just gives you an idea that your lungs is actually being affected. And depending on how severe, you could cease respiration. So basically, what's present right now, no one is talking about treatment. We're still looking at vaccines and all the things people have been talking about. But what's important now is we're talking about prevention, and that's the key things basically you want to do, because the contact spread kind of thing everybody's talked about, the whole idea about you being at home, self-isolating, social distancing. That's what the whole government and everybody globally is pushing. And when you have to come in contact with people, we talked about how do you get to know if you have this. So we talked about the symptoms as well, and because the virus actually has an incubation period, usually about 14, 21 days. So if you come in contact with anybody who is suspect to have a virus, by the time you're isolating yourself for that period of time, and if you manifest, so you need about that period of time, 14, 21 days, to see if there's a manifestation. If you don't, then you're good, that's fine. Okay, treatment. Now, again, nobody knows absolute treatment for it, but the French government and, of course, our Donald Trump has actually encouraged us, and so people are looking in the direction of using hydroxychloroquine and, of course, azithromycin in the right doses, because, of course, we all know what drugs cause complications from complications from chloroquine, and all of us remember those days as kids what chloroquine does to us, the crazy itching. But apart from that, effects on our liver, effects on our eyes, could cause some level of retinopathy, which is actually reversible. Okay, so you don't want to be having all the stuffs within you. So you're basically advised that should you have to use any medication, please consult with your doctor. Or better still, when you have symptoms, what Nigeria encourages us to do is to call the helpline of the Nigerian Center for Disease and Control, and who have been mandated to attend to the pandemic presently. Basically, we all should never be shy about it.